A little too much preaching. You are now locked into the Preacher Says podcast. We're here to free the real on the transitional struggles Christian women face. We will be better and do better. Well, welcome everybody. Hi. As you can see, we're back with another guest. We have the one, the only, Debra Chosen.
Hey.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We're excited to have you on.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, honestly. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
I can't lie, I'm starstruck again, guys.
Oh my gosh, Kenya, not again, please. We're gonna give you some minutes to get yourself back together. But Debra, thank you again for joining us. We are doing another episode of Celebrating Black Excellence, and obviously we had to get the lovely Debra Chosen, who is always sprinkling gems on the timeline, just empowering us to really push through our process, our struggle, everything. So today we wanted her to join us, just hear what the great things she's doing in her life and just inspire you. But before we zoom in, we're going to introduce ourselves, and Debra, we're going to take you through our usual guests fire questions. But before, so to start, you have myself, Roslyn.
Myself, Kenya. No, I didn't know we were doing this today. Who's doing it? And then you have Abby Soye. Excellent. Cool. Okay. So, which one should we do first? Are we going to do a fire round, or do you know what? I sprang this up on Sinead the last episode. You know that whole the transitional struggle thing. I sprung it up on her. But do you ladies, do you think we should do the same?
Oh, of course. But I think maybe we can start with the fire round questions to kind of get you relaxed and comfortable, and then you can have some time to think about your transitional struggle that you want to share with us.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
So cool. Who's doing the questions?
Do you want to do it this time? Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You know what? We're looking at each other, but I don't know who we're looking at. So obviously, like, I don't know who that year was for, but I'm now getting it was for me. So, yeah. All right. Okay. Debra, are you ready?
Yeah, ready as I ever be. Let's go.
Okay. So first question. You can't hesitate as well. No hesitation.
Okay.
Gotta be. Okay, cool.
This is like speed. Okay, cool.
Speed. Okay, here we go. Hot drink or cold drink?
Cold drink.
Favorite Bible version?
ESV.
Ooh.
Okay.
ESV/New King James, but anyways, ESV.
Okay. Last person you called?
I don't call anyone. That sounds so bad. Okay. My boyfriend.
Okay.
Ooh.
Some tea. Athletic or dad bod?
Athletic.
Yeah.
Body.
Yeah. Makeup or no? Also, what did you say?
No, I just said not really my vibe. But carry on.
Makeup or no makeup?
To be honest, no makeup. No makeup. Yeah, I like the idea of just natural skin glowing and not needing it and feeling good. Yeah.
Tap into it.
Amen. Honestly. Me too. My skin right now.
Yes, all tapping into it. Boy, the streets are hard. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
So I've thought about this a lot. It would actually be, I don't know if any of you guys used to watch Burner's Watch. Or have heard of it. Okay, I'm aging myself. But basically, I'd be able to control time. So what happens in Bernard's watch is he has a watch, he's able to pause, fast forward, replay, all that kind of stuff. Time, I would be able to pause time, fast forward it, all of that kind of stuff, because I just want to be in control in that way.
Like Doctor Strange.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Okay, wigs or braids?
Braids, but I wish my edges would like them.
Oh, Jesus.
Then again, my edges don't like wigs either. My edges don't like anything but to just be left. So
Let me be.
Mum jeans or skinny jeans?
Mom jeans.
Okay, and the final question, I hope you know the last person, but Mike Todd or Charles Stanley?
Not gonna lie, don't know the last
I knew you wouldn't. It's one of the,
one. Is
he's
he
so
like old
old.
school preacher?
Yeah, he's old.
Yeah, that's abs.
That's
My
your
favorite. He's my
Oh,
favorite. But maybe Mike Todd or
Bishop T.D. Jakes?
I was gonna say, but they're kind of the
But
same
I
people,
thought,
right?
yeah,
They kind of
I
are.
don't think they're that different. I was gonna say Benny
Well,
Hinn.
let's go for Mike Todd then.
I'm a good. Who? Mike Todd and who?
Mike Todd or versus anyone.
Oh, I was
I'm,
gonna say Benny Hinn.
Benny.
I'm
Is
still-
that his last name? I feel like I'm not saying it right. Is it Hinn? Hinn?
What?
It is. Someone said it with a heen. It is him. Yeah.
Benny Hinn, really. Benny
I'm
Hinn.
still go for Mike Todd. Yeah, I'm still go for Mike Todd.
Well done. That's the end.
How'd you find that?
It was alright. Warmed you up. Yeah, it's cool. Not
Yeah.
bad.
It's quite nice to. It's so interesting when you hear the one that always like intrigues me is the drink one.
Mm.
Yeah.
Sinead said hot drink, and I thought with me it's a seasonal thing. Like, okay, if we were in cold right now, I would have said hot, but hands down, like cold is my go-to drink. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm hot drink every time.
Are you? Do you like teas, coffees, all of it?
Teas, coffees, all
Teas,
of it.
everywhere.
Okay. See, I'm one of those weird people that doesn't like coffee, and I also don't like tea. I only like herbal teas. So
Okay.
cold for me. Yeah. I'm an anomaly. It's weird.
I don't do coffee, but
Well, you like the herbal tea, so we'll allow you.
yeah,
Thank you. I can be gang.
gang. Then shall we go back then to your transitional struggle?
Sure. Yeah.
Time to think.
Okay. So the question is really a transitional struggle this year.
It can be any.
Any.
Oh my gosh. Wow. You know, when you feel someone asks you this question, you feel like, oh, my life, I had to fight. Like, which struggle should I give you? So a lot of it's been a struggle. Okay, probably the first one that comes to mind is, it's actually a few years ago. I think the year was 2016. This year, basically, I had lost my job. For background information, by the way, my background currently is marketing, social media. That's kind of what I've been doing since I graduated. So I was in this job, everything was going great, whatever. I lost the job. So what happened was I basically went from not having the job to still looking for a job a year later. So I had a year of just struggle, a year of basically no money, a year of just constant no's. And in that year, I remember I was just crying out to God so badly for a breakthrough, fasted everything. Sorry, for context, I live in Birmingham currently. This is where my family live as well. And at the time I was living in Birmingham, but I'd always just known and had this desire to move to London, right? So imagine it's like the worst year of your life, and all I want is a job, and all I want is for it to be in London as well. And I remember crying and praying, and I would just always get a no. And I remember the day when things kind of shifted for me was I was praying to God about it, and I remember He said to me basically, now is not the time for me to take you to London, because if you move right now, you're going to make an idol of your location. Because at the time, full transparency, I was just very displeased, uncomfortable, very discontent with where I was in terms of my environment. I was very discontent with home life. I was discontent with Birmingham. I was like, this is dead. Where's all my friends? Like, I want to do this. Essentially, when I look back, it was probably FOMO in overdrive. But I was so set on thinking this was the right time. And then God just humbled me, and He gave me the scripture. I think it's Philippians 4:12, where it basically says, I've learned to be content, basically, whether in need or whether I have everything, I've learned to be content. what I took away from that, it was hard, but what I took away from that was, until I become content with my current situation and where I am, God's not going to move me to the next. And that's exactly what happened. So ironically, it was as soon as I began to be comfortable and happy and content with Birmingham, that God was like, here you go, here's a new job. It was like my dream job in London. And it was beautiful because it was in his time. And I was able to transition. I was able to move to London, not putting all my joy, my peace, my everything into this change of location, because God had changed my heart on the inside. So it just kind of showed me, you know, oftentimes like we think a destination is like our ticket, you know, like it's over there, or it's over there where my joy is, where my peace is. And it's always on the inside of you. And until it's on the inside of you, it doesn't actually matter where you go. So yeah, that was like a bite-sized version of just a year in my life that was just transitionstruggle.com basically. But yeah, I'm here now, and I really thank God he did it at the time he did it, because when I look back and I think, had he had given me the move when I wanted it, yeah, I probably would have moved very mad. Like I would have just been like, yeah, can, this is me, I'm in London, I'm just doing, you know, like, but by the time I moved, I was like, it's not that deep, I'm just here to work and see my friends and you know, and love God. And yeah, so yeah, I think that's probably one that comes to mind, but I have plenty. If we sat down for a while, trust me, guys, I've got stories, but yeah, that's the one that comes to mind.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Would you, so just out of interest, was that around the time that you started TTP, or were you doing something like that before you started?
Yeah, so it was in that year of, you know, not having the job. And actually, if I really remember, I also went through a breakup at the time. And it's one of those breakups where, like, at the time I thought my world was going to end. Looking back now, I'm very much fine. But at the time I was like, oh my God, no job, no man, no nothing. But it felt like everything was falling apart. And I was dealing with some stuff in my family in regards to health-related troubles as well. And it was during that time when I felt like I needed to see stories of Black women who have gone through things and triumphed, basically, who didn't just, suddenly I started craving not just to see like successful women, but like, what's your story? Like, how did you get there? What did you go through? Basically, tell me your you know, like, tell me the real in what it actually takes to go through the process. And I remember back then what I would do is I'd gravitate a lot towards, I find that a lot of American women, their stories are out there. So I don't know if you guys know about like the Myleik Teals, who is the founder of Curlbox. I was really obsessed with this girl called Ngozi, who used to do, well, she still does hair called Heat Free Hair. I was just drawn to all these like American founders and business women and entrepreneurs. And I was like, where's our stories? Like, where are Black women doing big things from the UK? Because this was before, you know, most of us had like caught onto podcasting in such a huge way here in the UK. And so that's when the idea came to me, and I began like, I had the name straight away, and I began planning things. I actually recorded a pilot introduction. I reached out to a couple of people, and it kind of just never really happened because I talked myself out of it. Fear had its wicked way at the time, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna not do this, someone else will do it, it's okay, someone else will do it. And that process from like 2016, really, where I had the idea, to I think 2018, where I actually finally launched the podcast, is a story in itself. But in essence, there was a lot of unlearning fear, unlearning self-limiting beliefs. I had to get out of my own way, basically, in order to be able to birth it. But yeah, TTP was definitely born in that season. Yeah.
So let's maybe go back a bit. So let's say if somebody's listening and they haven't heard of you before, and haven't heard of TTP, like what would you say? How would you explain what you do today, and the platform that you have?
Sure. So it's a funny question, isn't it? Because when someone's like, who are you? What do you do? You're just like,
who is she? Who
is she? Literally, I'm like, who am I? But in essence, at the heart of everything, I'm a lover of words before anything else. So I often look through kind of the different things I've done in life, whether it was my podcast or the YouTube channel, or I used to do spoken word. Not a lot of people know that. That's actually how I started on YouTube. And I just look at like my journey, and I realized that one of the threads through it has been words, basically using words to help other people or inspire other people. It's just taken on different shapes, you know, in different seasons. So at the heart of it, there's that. But also I'm someone that is incredibly passionate about healing through conversations. I'm very, very passionate about getting into someone's full story. One of my dreams when I was in university, or my original plan when I was in university, was actually to become a clinical psychologist, because I'm really big on unpacking like the process and understanding like why we do what we do. And when I think about what I do now through the podcast, a lot of that is even within, you know, the way that I interview and whatnot. So everything's kind of just culminated to make me person who is today a speaker, by God's grace, podcast host, of course, of Trust in the Process. And Trust in the Process, in essence, what that is it's the show that celebrates Black women doing big things. You know, that's the way I put it ultimately. It's about championing Black women, telling their stories of success, but telling the full story. Like at the heart of it, that's what I'm all about. You know, we all hear the term like highlight reel, that Instagram can be, right? And it's super easy to just see someone's highlights, and it's super easy to believe that that's all there is to a story. But yeah, through the podcast, my goal is basically to just tell the full story. And so there's that. And then another element of what I do, I write as well still, like I said, lover of words, so that comes through. So I write through a weekly newsletter, which is the TTP newsletter, which is basically my personal space where I share my journey and how I'm trusting my own process week on week, whether it's faith, whether it's fear is a common one, whether it's knowing that I need to rest more, God speaking to me about rest, forgiveness, whatever the case may be, that's just my safe space to do that. And amazingly, people want to tune into that, which is great. So yeah, in essence, I'm a bit of everything, but ultimately speaker, writer, and a lover of people, and super, super passionate about Black women and us being the best versions of ourselves through having real and honest conversations. Yeah.
So what would you, how do I put this? What would you say that what part has God played in terms of you figuring out that, for just knowing how to navigate that passion as well as fulfill that purpose, you know, like your platform has been a massive resource to people in terms of their healing and in terms of even just coming out and just embracing the lows. So even before Preachers started, your podcast was a podcast that I really tuned into, and I feel like Preachers can really relate to it's not that we don't care, but not focusing so much on the end goal, but it's the daily and how the process looks like, and how do you pick yourself up again and when you're down. So what would you say, how did God help you to maybe get to where you are now?
Yeah, it's a good question. Oh my gosh. I think one of the main roles that God's played is in reminding me of my why, like ultimately being my why, to be honest, because if I think about it, the year, you know, that I got the idea, but I faced a lot of fear and I was very scared. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I hadn't launched anything like a podcast. I'd had a YouTube channel. I'd like done different things, but I was like, a podcast, that's a new level at the time to me. And so I had a lot of fear. And when I look back and even just look at today, the only thing that enables me ultimately to keep going is that God reminds me that it's not about me at the heart of it. Like, I think oftentimes fear is actually, sometimes it's actually our ego, if that makes sense. So sometimes we're afraid because we're making the thing about us. So I was making it about me. Like, I was like, oh, what's everyone going to think about me when I launch this thing? What if people don't listen? Again, it's about me, right? And it's like, are you doing this for you or are you doing this for me? Because if you're doing it for me, you're gonna have to put to the side your feelings. It's not to say you negate them, it's not to say deny them, they're still valid, right? But it's like, are you prepared to honor me and like what I've called you to do and trust me in that, literally trust the process, trust me in that, above what you're feeling. You know, Malik Till, like I mentioned her, I'm probably going to quote her throughout this interview, but she says something which is feelings aren't facts, basically. And for me, because I'm someone that can be very feelsy, like my emotions can feel very real. A lot of us can probably relate with that. Having God in my life and having that relationship with God has helped me to actually push past what I feel and pursue what I know. Do you get what I'm saying? So yeah, I feel scared, but I know that God's called me to this, so I'm gonna do this. Yeah, I feel scared, but I know that there's people that need to be blessed by these stories, so I'm gonna do it. Do you get what I mean? And I think that that conviction is what's kind of kept me going. And I guess arguably, yeah, like got me to where I am today. Not like, you know, I've arrived or anything, but got me to where I am today. That it's like, at the heart of it, it's not about you. Like, you'll benefit from it, you'll be blessed by it as well. But it's helped me keep my eyes focused on the actual purpose. So.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about just some of your story that you have shared with us before already. Sorry, you said that you were in marketing before.
Yeah, so I'm in it currently. Yeah.
Currently, and you know, you were saying that in the past you'd wanted to be a clinical psychologist, and how the same thing with Sinead. It was, oh, I want to be a lawyer, and how God has just steered you into the direction or the area that you are in currently, and how they link so well together. So thinking, I was just going to ask, like, from your marketing job, how does that then benefit you in TTP? Like, are there any skills that you can transfer from there into this?
Definitely. Yeah, no, definitely. It's interesting, like I always say, God wastes nothing, you know, like different things that we experience and different talents that we have and gifts that we have. In one season, we might just use it in a way we didn't expect to use it, but it will benefit us, right? So I used to look at, don't get me wrong, by the way, I probably will change my career soon because I'm just on the cuff of a change. But I used to look at like marketing in my job and kind of be like, it was hard to kind of understand how I'd got there when my original plan was clinical psychology, like I said, right? And then I began to realize from, to be honest, so many different elements, from like how I designed the artwork to my approach with promoting the podcast, my approach with, okay, how do I promote that I'm going to be doing a newsletter? How am I going to launch that? What kind of content am I going to create? The bulk of my job is content creation ultimately, but for others, right? I've worked like brand side, just working with one brand that was fashion, but then I've also worked in agencies, so you get a taste for like different brands. And so I think one of the main things my marketing experience has taught me is how to communicate through content, basically. So how to communicate a message in a caption, because you only got, 280 characters or whatever the case may be, how to communicate a message with video, because that client, their brief might be, we want video content. So you then start thinking, is this going to be an interview? We're going to do like a solo video, whatever the case might be. But yeah, definitely the creative element and actually the strategy, if I think about it, has helped. To be honest, not just TTP, even like my approach to like speaking and different things like that. Marketing is just so wide that it really, even those of us that don't work in it or anything, that we all use it in some sort of way in today's age, especially because we're all on social media, building some sort of brand. So yeah, it has, like, I look back and I'm like, okay, it wasn't wasted. Like, these years that I've been in this job have not been wasted. I've definitely benefited from it. And if I change career, I'm sure there'll be certain skills that I've picked up that, I'll be able to carry into the next one as well. So that's just the way God works, isn't it? But don't always see it at the time.
Precisely, because sometimes you're like, oh, I'm in this position, but really I dream to be in X position, but you don't realize like the lessons and the blessings or the talents and the skills that you're acquiring now are there really to help you in your next level that you're going to move to, your next space that you're going to be in.
Definitely.
It's good.
And when you're talking about how both your 9 to 5 and your, in a sense, I don't like to call things side hustles anymore, because I feel like people are, the side hustle is
no longer side hustles.
It's a main job in itself. But with that being said, from what I understand, when you start, like, actually, context, when we started Preach It Sis, and even to this day, we still have to manage sometimes when it comes up with our time, with our full time, and with, other things that we're doing. How do you do that? Like, what ways do you, manage your time efficiently so that you can still give what your best to both things.
Girl, y'all need to say a prayer for me, because that's what I'm working. Okay, that's what, like, I'm not up here to be fake, so I'm gonna tell the real. That's one thing I'm working on, honestly. There are certain hacks that I will get into a bit, but first I'll probably talk about like the difficulties in that. One thing that I've found is, in a particular, how do I put it? In certain seasons where you maybe don't have so many external responsibilities, whether it's family or it's your job or whatever the case may be, it's obviously a lot easier for you to throw yourself into that thing and have tunnel vision and be like, right, I'm gonna eat, sleep, breathe the podcast, as the case may be. But over the last 2 years that I've launched the podcast, my seasons have changed a lot. I've moved, I've had pretty serious like sicknesses within the family that have required me to just have to change my role, my timetable, my everything. There's been a lot of different things that have messed with my ideal of being productive. But some of the things that I found that have helped, one of the first things is actually just learning how to be a bit flexible and make the most of different positions that you're in. So an example is, I remember when I was working in my last job in London, and I would be like, oh my gosh, I need to edit the podcast, but by the time you come back from work and then maybe you've done different things, it's late. So I would just utilize my lunch breaks. Literally, I went through this phase, I used to bring this MacBook to work, and I was like, well, I have a whole hour. I don't have to eat for the whole hour. Like, no one actually really eats for the whole hour. No one eats that slow. I was like, let me take my food, and sometimes I'll sit at my desk and do it, or go downstairs to the canteen, whatever. But the point is, like, just making the most of those different pockets of time that you do have, because let's be honest, most of the time we do have enough time, right? But it's about how we prioritize the time, and it's about how we approach it. And are you flexible enough to edit on the back of the train if you need be, as opposed to being so set on like, no, I'll only edit if I'm in my bed and I'm comfortable and you know what I mean? Like, just being able to kind of go with the flow. I think also for me, I'm a to-do list kind of person. So like, if I don't write it down, it's not happening for the most part. So I, not like they're sponsoring this episode or anything, but I love Evernote. They will soon in Jesus' name. But yeah, I love Evernote. That's an app that I use. Also Trello. They're just different apps that basically help you plan your day. So plan the different things you're going to do and also see what you have achieved. But more recently, so I used to be the kind of person that would put like 10 things on my to-do list, and then at the end of the day be disappointed and surprised that I didn't manage to achieve all of them, because in my head I can always do a lot more than I can actually do. I think I'm such a woman, but yeah, all the time. And maybe it's an African mentality of overachieving, who knows? But I've had to realize that it was actually doing more damage than good. And so I've recently started to strip back how much I try to achieve in a day and focus more on the quality of what I try to do in a day. So a friend of mine challenged me, it's hard, but challenged me to only write down 3 things that you need to do in the day and do those 3 things well. And what you find, I know, I'm like, I've got 30 things, 3 things, like 3 important things. So instead of one of the things being replied to that email, it'll be a big thing, like something that's actually going to make a huge difference. And what you find is you get through those and then you have more momentum and energy to do the other things anyway. So yeah, full transparency is something I'm still learning. Balance is something I love to talk to other people about, because I think it's not easy to navigate, especially when your 9 to 5 is demanding. But if it means enough to you, you'll make it happen, you know what I mean? But I will say, even within that, it's super important to still practice self-care, because I think a lot of us can be so it's good, like we're so driven, right, and we want to achieve so much. Like, didn't everyone tweet the other day, like, Munya has 24 hours in the day, like always Beyonce has the same 24 hours. We're like, let's get everything out of every single hour. And sometimes at the expense of our health, sometimes we burn out. I feel like this generation, we've experienced burnout probably more than our parents' generation did at this age. And I don't think that's something to probably be proud of. So I think it is a balancing act. It's knowing how to work with your energy. And sometimes God is just like, rest, you can do that tomorrow, and also know how to rest, because you need that to recharge.
So just on the back of that, what would you, so you're somebody that I see as quite entrepreneurial, but you're somebody that's very much pro well-being and self-care, and so what would you say to millennials listening to this, because you know, a lot of us got a lot of ideas and that we want to do, and what would you say in terms of just, yes, you know, push through your ideas, you know, figure them out, implement them, etc., but in terms of fleshing out the details or even how you approach it, what would you say how they can go about with just making sure they're not burning out? So having enough desire to go after what you want and really build this legacy and, you know, this dream that you want to do, but also making sure that is not to your detriment, is not to your mental well-being. What would you say to that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of the first things that comes to mind is like, do the work, but know that you are not the work and you are not what you do. And what I mean by that basically is, I think oftentimes why we burn out, we don't realize this, but isn't because we're doing so much necessarily, but because we're attaching so much of our worth to what we're doing. So when we fail to do that thing, it's like whole world's over. Yeah, like you should just be like, oh, okay, I didn't achieve it, but now you're exhausted, like you feel mentally drained, you don't, you know, it's just it just rocks your world. And I think that the danger of that is that, you know, that we're measuring like our worth by how much we're able to do. So it's like, work hard, but know that like whether you do that thing or you don't, you're still worthy. Like you're not worthy just because of how much you do. You're worthy anyways. So do from that place, as opposed to doing from a place of to discover my worth, if that makes sense. Do from the place of God loves me already. I'm gifted already. I'm chosen already, as opposed to doing things to prove those things. Because I think sometimes that happens. On a practical level, have accountability. I know that word's like such a buzzword now, like especially in the Christian community, you know, accountability.
Accountability partners.
Yeah. You know, I feel like we kind of, we did damage to that word. A little bit like modesty, but anyways, it's just like, it's hit and miss. But anywho, accountability and how that can help you is have some, like, we're all going to have some friends in our life who, you know, are going to be like, oh, you're tired, sis, don't worry, rest. And they're good to have, but equally have those friends, you know, that are going to be like, look, you said you said you wanted to launch the podcast, so what are we doing? What's going to be the first step? Like, okay, cool, I'm going to create my art. You know, you need a bit of both, basically. And I think sometimes, you know, being surrounded with just one of either is dangerous. If you have just someone that's telling you, get up, work, you're going to be exhausted. Similarly, if you have someone patting you on the back constantly, you're not going to do very much. So having people to be accountable to means that you can kind of spread some of that pressure and what's going on in your mind, and it helps you kind of work through different things. Because I think loads of us have many ideas, like you said, but it's what burns us out is that it feels very overwhelming sometimes, like, where do I begin with this? And a final tip, really, to help people not burn out, look at what your relationship with rest is like. I had to learn.
That's a trigger for me.
Sorry, sis, it's just because it was me.
Everyone.
Listen, I used to, like, when I was growing up, I loved sleep. I shouldn't really say that, it's probably very gluttonous, but I loved sleep. And I thought I was still that person. And then I had my own probably severe case of burnout, I think 2 years ago. And in that year, I was like, you don't know how to rest. Like, you don't know how to rest. Because when I had an opportunity, whenever I would have an opportunity to chill, I would just see it as free time to work on something. You know, oh my gosh, I'm going to send this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I had to realize you don't actually have as healthy of a relationship with the rest as you think you do. And I had to tear apart, like, what does rest actually mean to me? And what beliefs have I been associating with rest that aren't true? So I had to unlearn some things. So I had to unlearn the idea that if I rest, I'm lazy, right? I had to unlearn the idea that, you know, the whole like hustle mentality of work 24/7, I'll sleep when I'm dead kind of thing. Like I had to be like, no guys, this is wrong. Why are we doing this? no, like, let's be healthy now. But it wasn't until I kind of confronted my own beliefs about rest that I could begin to do the work to actually embrace rest and also schedule rest. Like, it might sound strange, but sometimes you have to block it out in your calendar, or I have to say to myself, that's why I love the whole self-care Sunday thing. Like, sometimes it will help you be like, I'm not going to do work on this Sunday. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. Otherwise, I will do it. So yeah, I think those are probably the main things ultimately. But like most things, it's a process. Sometimes you'll get it, and sometimes you won't. So be patient.
Yeah. The rest thing is so like I'm just really bad at it, and like I'm one of those people that when I sleep too much, I wake up annoyed with myself for sleeping too much, and it's like I go throughout my whole day just annoyed because I feel like I've missed out on an hour that could have been so productive. But I'm trying to be more intentional about it, because I then find myself just burning out, and then I just cut off everything, which I also feel like is not entirely productive. But it is a process, and we gonna get there.
We will. And recently I was writing about rest, and I wrote that resting is trusting, because what I realized is it's kind of like the story of Mary. It's not even kind of, it is the story of Mary and Martha, right? That, one of them is running around. I would have been her. Yeah, I would be like, Jesus is coming. Let's get this house spick and span. Like, do we need to do this? Should we call the caterer? Does he like jollof rice, or does he like fried rice? I'd just be up and down. And then there's, Mary, like, at the feet of Jesus. Basically, she's just trust. Like, it takes trust, actually, for you to rest. Sometimes we're doing so much because we lack the trust to believe that God can work on our behalf, if that makes sense. And it's not about you carrying the weight of all the ideas that are in your mind or that God's given you to do. It's about being a co-laborer with God in it. It's about like saying, God, I'm gonna do my part, and then I'm gonna sleep. And while I sleep, I know you're going to cover everything. And when I wake up tomorrow, we go again. Because even God rested. So I beg, please. we're not machines, please. So, yeah, but that's what I'm still learning.
I agree. I think rest is really, really important. And we've said this a few times about lockdown and what it meant to different people in terms of rest, because there was a pressure to be still busybody when you're actually in one place.
In the middle of the pandemic.
In the middle of a pandemic, still like being everywhere in your house. Doing things. I feel like our generation, like, we just always want to be doing something and seem to be doing something as well. So it's something that we definitely struggle with.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to ask you actually. I was going to ask you. I know you mentioned previously about when you were talking about the transitional struggle, about the some of the lows that you have faced and how God has helped you through. What has been some of the highs that you have that you've experienced so far?
Oh gosh, I think for me, like, one of the greatest highs has been especially in the last, not this year. This year's been terrible. 2019. In 2019 specifically. Was honestly just speaking so much. Like, was having the opportunity to speak, to host, to interview people. It might sound crazy, but when I'm doing that, I just feel so alive, right? And I think that year I experienced, I was like, wow, this is what makes me come alive. When I've sat down with someone and unpacked their whole story with them, and I know that other people are going to get something from that story, I'll go to sleep full. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like that thing that you can, obviously we all need money, but that thing that you can do and not be paid for a while, that's when I found that kind of joy. I was like, wow, I loved it. I love hosting. I'm loving that God is opening these doors for me, because it had been a prayer of mine, and there was no like handbook as to how to make it as a host, or how to make those doors open. But I just see God's hand on it and the way that he was making things possible. So I think that was one. I think another one has just been just experiencing joy when I'm not supposed to, if that makes sense. So what I'll say is this. One of the things that's been a highlight for me, really, of my life, is that in seasons where on paper I should be absolutely broken, or I shouldn't have joy. Like, I shouldn't have joy. You're going through this and you're going through that. Like, you shouldn't be able to access joy right now. God has this way of still just help me lean into it and bring it to me in like different forms. friendships, it might be my relationship, it might be, you know, it doesn't matter. It might be a conversation, like I said, but there's just a way that like, if, don't worry, one day I will probably sit down with Oprah and tell my full life story. But if I tell my full life story, yeah, it's like, I shouldn't be as full of joy as I am, given everything. So yeah, I'm honestly like, my highlights have changed. Now my highlight is that I have joy. My highlight is that I have peace. Before it might have been when I got the dream job and whatever, but it's now it's kind of more in the intangible things. So yeah, God's faithful. Like, in spite of what you might be going through, He's still faithful.
What would you say to somebody that wants to just find joy in their season of difficulty? From what you said, it sounds like certain factors also contributed to that. So how do you kind of establish that nurturing environment around you as well, and that can kind of stabilize you in the seasons? Like, what advice, what tips could you give them?
Yeah, I think the first thing is know what makes you joyful. So find what actually brings you joy. I think a lot of us don't fully know, and so how can you gravitate towards it? How can you create an environment that looks like that? How can you? It's kind of like, if you don't know what you need in someone, how are you ever going to find like the right kind of partner, if that makes sense? It's easier to find the right partner when you know. So one of the ways you can do that is just through spending more time with yourself. It sounds very isolating, but it is the reality. I think when I lived by myself in London, I was able to chill with myself a lot. I love solo traveling. I've traveled a few times by myself, and when I do that, it's like, it's so easy to know what brings me joy. It's like, oh my gosh, that sunrise just made me feel butterfly. It's like, oh, I like sunrises. That they make me really, really happy. Or wow, I woke up early this morning and I feel great. Oh, maybe waking up early is actually something that gives you joy. So maybe we should work on how you can do that more often. Do you get what I mean? Or recently, my thing that sparks joy has been redecorating my room, you know, and creating a space where I can feel really, really, truly comfortable. So I think understand, like, actually, first of all, what brings you joy, what do you love, what do you actually love doing, and then you can create that environment. I also think try to, even though I've just talked about solo travel and things like that, try to not spend too much time in your head. Be around people as well, as much as you can, as much as is safe within our current, you know, lockdown situation. But even if it's virtually, you know, no man is an island, right? We're not supposed to do this whole life thing by ourselves. But what can sometimes happen when you are in a season where you're having different challenges, it can be very, very easy for you to want to isolate yourself. It can be quite automatic. So I'm going through things, so I don't have the energy for a phone call. You just feel like you don't have much to give to people, but still being open to those relationships, because you just never know the way that God can kind of move through your friends, you know, like whoever you choose to relate with in that time can make such a difference and keep you joyful, and also help you put things into perspective. Because sometimes you might feel like you're having the worst day ever, and then you talk to your friend about it, and you're like, do you know what? I was overreacting, wasn't I? You know, and it's all good. Yeah, and then probably the last thing is let God love you. Like, that sounds strange, but like, honestly, like, let God in. Like I said, sometimes when you're having those challenging seasons, it can be really, really easy for you to put up a wall. Trust, like, take it from me, it's very, very easy, especially maybe if you're having a season where you feel like God's not answering your prayers about something, but He's always there. Like, He's always still loving on you. He's always still inviting you. If something's changed, it's that we've moved. It's not that God has, right? So it's like, He's always there willing to give us those things, but for us to access that joy, we have to let Him in and like let Him love us. So yeah, I think that's kind of probably been the top 3 things for me in this season anyways.
I love that, and also very useful for me.
Oh, I'm glad.
I have a question. So most people, they tend to see the end product and no one ever sees the background and the stuff, that the energy and the time that people put into, you know, their brands and so on and so forth. But how do you maintain or establish excellence in your brand of TTP? Like, how do you maintain that? How do you keep the excellence alive and going in your brand? Because everyone's like, oh my god, we love it, but no one sees what happens behind the doors.
Yeah, I mean, there's different factors. I think the first thing is I just try and create what I would like to see. So when, like, if I'm writing an article or a letter rather, I know that someone's going to benefit from it, so I just have to write it. It's hard to explain, actually. Now I'm trying to think about it. It's like, what do you do? It's like, I just do. But I'm trying to think, like, even from, you know, the concept of the podcast through to like the art, through to just like the way I interview and things like that, I try and do something that I can be proud of, basically. Don't get me wrong, sometimes you might post something, you know, you might do a graphic or whatever, you might do some things that you're like, it's not my best, but it'll do. Like, let's all be real, right? But overall, I just try and make sure that I can be happy with what I've done, right? And that I've done it from a place of, did I do this in the best way I could possibly do it? So like on a practical level, sometimes maybe I might think, all right, there's a message that I want to share, God's speaking to me about something, and I might make, what the process will look like is, I might put it in notes on my phone, right? So God might drop some kind of revelation, I put it in notes on my phone, it's just words. Then I think, cool, how am I gonna actually communicate this to people? I might think, my next picture that I post of me, I'll put it as the caption or something. And then I could stop there, and that's okay if I do. But then sometimes I'll be like, how can I make this even more excellent? Like, what can I do to take this up a notch? What will really pull me out of my comfort zone? It's like, let me try a thing where I just do I speak the words instead, and I put it over the picture written. It's more work, it's more effort, but it's gonna have more impact, you know, because I put more of that into it. So I think sometimes it's like, when I get to that place where my sweet spot of, oh, that's going to be really good, then don't settle there. It's like, let's make it even better. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what can we do to, like, yeah, take it up and pull yourself out of your comfort zone? I think excellence comes outside of the comfort zone. To be like, it's never going to be comfortable to be excellent, to me. Some people, yeah, our gifts and things like that, they come naturally to us, right? But I think the expression of excellence comes in. That requires more effort. Do you know what I mean? God may have given you great gifts, but for you to actually be excellent with that, you need to do some work. So yeah. I think I just try and take it up a notch. Also, I think a big thing is who I watch, who I listen to. I try and stay inspired. Well, I do. I don't even try. I just do stay inspired, because I'm always listening to different things, watching different things. Interviews really, really inspire me. Different amazing hosts. The way that Oprah navigates questions has always inspired me, and so that kind of just weaved into how I do it. So yeah, I think just try and stay inspired, and challenge yourself to, like, take it up a notch.
I remember somebody saying, I think it was in the work setting, but about stretching yourself, like it's a constant stretch. And it won't be comfortable, but then you get to a point where even where you've been stretched to, you're comfortable with, so you have to keep stretching. So yeah, no, that's definitely spot
on. So I asked Sinead this question, and I'm quite intrigued to see your perspective on it as well. Is what so you've talked about going a step further and putting in more effort when it comes to excellence. But when we talk about, be it Christian community or be it whatever space that God has called us into as Christians, what does excellence look like to you?
As Christians? Ooh, I think as Christians, excellence looks like doing what God has called you to do, and and then not just settling on, well, I did what God has called me to do. I think that what tends to happen, I'm not going to try and shade the Christian community because I'm a part of it, but I think what tends to happen is we say, oh, well, I've done the fruit, like I've done the good work, but then we miss out the creative part. It's like we don't try and take it up a notch. It's like, well, I've done the thing that God told me to do, so it's enough. Meanwhile, our counterparts in, secular streams, whether it's movies, whether it's music, whatever the case may be, are still stretching themselves to be more creative with it. I think for me, I strongly believe that we're called to be creative. We're creative in different ways, but we're called to be creative because our God is literally called the creator. So how could, if we're made in his image, how could we not, right? So I think for me, yeah, when I see excellence in the Christian community, it's where we have applied a different level of creativity. And sometimes that different level of not even sometimes, that different level of creativity comes from God, ultimately. I think the goal is for people to look at us and be like, wow, a Christian made that. Do you know what I mean? Or Christian design. I don't know if you guys know about Fear of God, that label. It's a fashion label by Jerry Lorenzo, if I've got his name right. The way that his design process when he's creating his tracksuits and his suits and things like that, he puts it that he wants to give God his best, basically, and he co-labors with God. So how could it not be great? Do you know what I mean? So I feel like if we kind of have that magic, this is not magic, but secret weapon to a certain extent. So
additional sauce.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like we've got extra hot peri sauce. So it's like let's not forget that. Let's add it. Let's not just leave things basic as if we don't have that. But yeah, I think the magic really is in the creativity, basically.
Yeah. I love asking this question because I feel like there's so many spins in it that I'm hearing. But yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's definitely coming out of the box that we draw out ourselves and embracing the process and what we're doing with God and doing it in co-hand with God and not just thinking it's all on us to figure it out. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
How did you find today?
How did you find it?
It was good. I enjoyed it. Yeah. How about you guys?
Yeah,
I loved it.
Yeah, so many.
I'm looking forward to listening to it again and writing notes.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, there's so many things that I need to be putting in my notes, but it's like we ain't gonna do that right now.
Let me just be present. No, I enjoyed it. It's been a while since since I've answered questions versus interviewing people's, but I just always enjoy kind of seeing what you guys are interested in and what you want to kind of take away from my journey. So hopefully, your listeners will benefit from what I've said as well.
One big thing for me, what you said was that not thinking too much about how something I need to create affects me, but more about what the reason behind it. God, the me is not God, and so the me is not me, is God. And I had to do something today that I had to think the same way. So I was like, so God has definitely confirmed it for you today.
It's not easy. It's because all we see is us. It's so easy to make it about us, and it's just super easy. But when you remove that, it's actually a lot easier to do things because it's like, I'm just doing it for God. So it's not about me. So I can do this now. Yeah.
I wanted to ask, how has COVID been for you, by the way?
Girl, COVID has been, oh gosh, y'all. COVID has been a bit mad, but it has kind of been, this will sound really, really weird to say, but I'm just keeping it real. It's kind of been the least of my worries in a weird way, because I've just had other stuff happening. But it's been okay. I think the beginning of it was very strange for me. When things first went into lockdown, we were all like, okay. I think that was really mad. I think now I've kind of got into a rhythm, I guess, and found my feet. But yeah, I mean, one good thing to come out of COVID is I have way much more enjoyed working from home. I will say that. I'm not in a rush to go back to the office personally. I don't know about you guys. Have you guys working from home? Do you work in the office?
I'm a primary school teacher, so I've been at school the whole time, basically.
Shout out to you.
Yeah, it's been at school.
Okay.
Just go.
How's it been? Like, does it feel weird? Or are you like, should I?
At first it was weird. Now you're just like, this is so normal. You just adjust. And actually, I kind of prefer just being in my own little bubble with my team. You know, any problems that are happening outside of our team, it's not our business. It's a nice happy bubble. We don't care. Negative energy far away. You know, it's actually nice. Personally, it's been a pleasant experience at school. I can't lie.
That's good.
Yeah. Like I said, initially it was all very weird and very scary, and everyone's like, we don't want to die, we don't want to catch it, especially like kids carry it. But now,
yeah. So it's been a weird year, man. It's just been weird.
Yeah.
Other things, it's been very strange, but yeah, like we're all here, so that's what matters. I'm okay. How about you, Roslyn? How's this whole period been for you?
So I've actually been working from home since like early March, because my firm, we saw it coming. We're like, right, we're all gonna just start working from home. But it's been a big adjustment for me. I like being in the office, just due to productivity reasons. So yeah, I think for me that's been the difficulty, because you go for like 2-3 months, and it's like, okay, we're going back now, and it's like we went back, and it's like, oh, the cases are rising, so we're back home. So I think it's just we're probably going to go back in the office maybe 2021 or something like that. So I think for me it's just trying to accept that's not going to change anytime soon. But so far so good. It's working, so no complaints.
That's good. I hear you on the productivity thing though. Don't get me wrong, although it's more comfortable being at home, it's definitely harder for me to get as much done as easily in my house.
Yeah. And it's like, so with my role at work, it's easier when you have people around that can just kind of like spy on them and just say, don't do this, don't do that. And it's like when everyone's working from home, you don't know what people are doing, and so it's a little bit tricky trying to have oversight of certain things. But this has been a good time besides work in terms of God just slowing me down, and so that's the season that I'm trying to be more open about and just kind of take time and not always feel like I have to be like this, you know. So that part has been really good for me.
Yeah, that's good. You know what else has been really good? You got engaged. So congratulations. I know I'm late again.
You know what threw me off when so I think I saw your comment, because a few of my friends were like, so this is why you've been posting so awkwardly.
I didn't actually notice
I was like,
I didn't notice it at all. Tumi commented when she said, oh, so that's why the hand was there. Like, I wasn't watching your hand like that. And I was like, oh yeah, makes sense. Like, congrats, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm still on cloud 9 with that. So just enjoying it as much as I can, and we'll see what COVID will let us do in 2021.
Okay, well, that's that for this episode with our lovely guest, Debra Chosen. Thank you for looking into another episode. We pray that you are encouraged. We pray that you were able to take away some of the gems that Debra dropped, and you can apply it to your life. As always, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PreachItSisPod. Debra, would you like to tell us where we can find you?
Yeah, so if you guys want to follow, I'm on Instagram at Debra Chosen. The podcast is also on Instagram at Trust in the Process Pod. You can also listen to the podcast on all streaming platforms, that's your Spotify, your SoundCloud, your iTunes. And yeah, any details you want to know should be up there. So that'd be great.
So some round of applause for celebrating Black Christian excellence.